someone says to them about their very able student, really? They're really going to that school because they haven't heard of it, that the parents feel that somehow then they haven't done a good job if they haven't convinced their student to go to the bigger name school, even though the student has made a choice that feels very good to them. You end up with this conflict that happens. And I'll give you a story to illustrate it. When I was working at McDaniel, hadn't changed its name yet. At the time, it was still called Western Maryland College. It was early on in my tenure there, about 1992. It was late one day, and I was working, and I noticed a car pull up, and it was the fall, and the time had changed already, so it was dusk, and I saw the headlights come in. I thought, oh, this is sort of odd. I wonder, what's going on here. And I looked out, the interior lights were on in the car, and there was a dad, appeared to be a dad, and a young woman, and she was crying, and I could see the tissues, and her nose was red, and I thought, this is really strange. I wonder what's up. And they were getting out, and lo and behold, they were coming towards my building. And it was about, I don't know, almost 6 o'clock at night. I resisted the urge to duck down and pretend I had already gone home for the day. I opened the door and, said hello, and the dad started to talk very fast, and the students that are here will appreciate this. He started to talk as if his daughter were not there, and he began to tell me everything about this young woman, who then I found out her name was Emily, and this is my daughter Emily, and she's a brilliant student, and she goes to school just outside of Princeton, and she's done all kinds of science research, and she was on, and she's not only crying, but now she's rolling her eyes around. I said, that's nice, tell me why you're here, what's going on? Well, we know it's late, but could we have a brochure? We're just going to walk around. I said, really, right now, how did you get here? And he said, well, here's the deal. Emily, I told you how able she is as a student, and she had her list, and we decided she's been very busy. She's done a lot of summer research programs, so she didn't have time to visit, and now her applications are going out. We need to get these visits done, so I'm the one, instead of my wife, that decided to go and do this, and we've just taken a long trip south to look at her schools that are on her list that she wants to go to. And she hated all of them. And she's been crying ever since North Carolina. And when I was driving and she was crying, I looked up and I saw Western Maryland College. And I remember I had dated a young woman when I was in college here, and I had really fond memories. And so I pulled off the exit and brought her in here. And I thought to myself, this is not going to go very well. So, and Emily's rolling her eyes. And I said, okay, well, why don't we take a walk around? And as we were starting to walk, she was telling me about her love of chemistry, the kinds of projects she had already done during the summer, and that she also was interested in music. So we stopped in the chemistry building, and she listened for a few minutes because there was a chemistry professor there still working with a couple of students. And she overheard, and she said, Mrs. O'Connell, they're talking about cancer research. And I said, yes, that would appear that's what they're talking about. And she said, I didn't know you had a graduate program. I said, we don't. She said, that's graduate level research they're talking about. I know, because I've heard this in my summer internship program. And I said, no, we involve undergraduates here because there aren't graduate students. And so this professor has an NIH grant, and these students have been able to do work. And she said, well, they don't look like they're very old. I said, no, they're sophomores. They're returning after their first year. They got to do research at the end of the freshman year. I said, yeah, they sure did. She wasn't crying anymore. She was really very excited. And the professor then took time and talked to her and explained the project and what Emily had done, and they did the talking. We went on to the next building, and she saw the choir performing, practicing, and she asked about whether it'd be possible to do a double major in music, and she was very interested in that. And by the time we finished the tour, this child was very happy and really beaming. And she looked over at her father and she said, I love this place. And I still had this sinking feeling this was not going to go very well. And her dad described to me, she really was an excellent student, had done so much, and she had never earned anything less than an A, and she was a brilliant test taker. She was going to qualify for a very wonderful full tuition scholarship. And I was sharing that with him, and he was very happy and smiling as we were walking to the admissions office. And this is before the time of cell phones. So we get to the office, and she said, Dad, we really have to call Mom and let her know why we're so late. And this is when I knew that I was right about the sinking feeling in my stomach. And I offered for them to use the phone in my office, and I overheard as she called her mother. She said, Mom, I'm sorry that we're late, but we stopped, and I just have to tell you, I have found the school I love. And her mother said, oh, wonderful, you love Duke. And she said, no, Mom, Western Maryland College. And her mother said, what? Put your father on the phone. And I knew that he was not going to tell her how he had found out about Western Maryland College. Her mother was so angry. They returned, she applied, and she also applied to all of those, well, she'd already applied to those other schools on our list, and she added Western Maryland to the list. And as I talked to the mom frequently in the weeks to come, I've tried to find out, where is this anger coming from? And I'll take it. Okay, fine, be angry at me. Maybe it'd be better than being angry at her spouse. So be angry at me. I'll try to save marriages in addition to changing lives. And she said, I don't know what to do about this. This is an only child, and we have put all of our energy into her, and she did all these wonderful things. She was going to go. She's been admitted to Princeton. And she started going through the whole list. She said, I want her to go to a place where people say to me, Emily, really? I've never heard of that school. Really? That's where she's going to go. She said, I really feel like I have failed. And now she wants to come to your school. You have to fix this. We spent a lot of time talking about outcomes and trying to, when I could get underneath it, assure her that Emily could do what she wanted to do. She thought perhaps she would want to teach chemistry somewhere, maybe, after she did her research. So Emily prevailed, and she deposited, and she came. Her dad was still happy because she got that full scholarship. Her mom, as the years went by, and she saw what Emily was doing, she became president of the Parents Association, which was fun. Emily did all kinds of research, and she presented at conferences. And when she graduated, she was able to go on to Michigan on a full fellowship because of the work that she had done. Her father was happy again because there wasn't a graduate school bill either. This was working out really well. I understand that fear about saying, I've never heard of a place. Am I going to be able to have my child have the outcomes that they expect? I get that. But in addition to doing good research about the places you think you already know, do the research about the places you don't know. Sometimes what you're going to find out is those well-known places may not have all of the opportunities that you assume you're going to have. It may be that they do and they're a perfect fit, but be sure to ask the questions. And certainly be sure, especially in these uncertain financial times, to add in places that because they're not as well-known, they might offer scholarships. And here's what I hear from families very often in the Q&A. I don't know about this. It must not be a very good place if it has to offer somebody a scholarship to come. And yet, isn't it fascinating how much we get excited when we hear about athletes that are able to get athletic scholarships to go someplace? We think that's just fine and great, and they deserve that. And yet we question whether someone should have an academic award that has money attached to it. It's fascinating how we do that. So it will help your stress and anxiety level if you try to think about this thing from a fit perspective and ask those questions that will expand the list. And rest assured that even if you haven't heard of it, it may still be a good school. Now let me talk to you about something else. Let me leave you with this piece first. As far as these ratings and rankings, one last piece. In Maryland, the Baltimore Sun did an article a few years ago because St. John's College, who has a campus in Annapolis, Maryland, and one also in Santa Fe, New Mexico, has never participated in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. They will not do it because of how they feel that it just does not have value and it doesn't match what they believe in as an institution. And so the Baltimore Sun did a story about this, and a mom wrote in after she read the story, and she said, kudos to St. John's for rankings boycott. Instead of turning to a magazine to tell us how to further develop our minds and human potential, all families ought to be looking to the real substance of the college, the curriculum. The values of an institution are also evident in the way it chooses to spend its money, the way it treats its faculty, staff, and students, and the way it